I love this computer, but boy is it about to get a whole lot better. It's time to upgrade Purple Goblin. Now don't get me wrong, my CPU that's currently in here, the Ryzen 7 3800X, has been doing perfectly fine for me for a little over a year at this point. But I wanted a little bit more IPC and I wanted some more cores. And so we ended up going with this Ryzen 9 5950X. I was originally going to get a 5900X, but these trended literally like $50 more, and if I was already paying a decent amount for a CPU and $50 more, you know, for 4 more cores and 8 more threads, you know, for pretty much the same IPC, you know, not much degradation going from 12 cores to 16 cores, just went ahead and decided to go with it. Plus, on top of that, with Ramageddon happening right now, it's not like I'm going to be springing for a DDR5 platform upgrade here anyway. So, just gonna go ahead and upgrade this with one of the best CPUs that you can get for this platform. And yeah, let's go ahead and install it. Here I also have this Sabert normal 2.5-inch SSD to M.2 SATA SSD adapter here, and the reason I have this is because I currently have one sitting in a card down here that eventually is going to have a 10 gig NIC be put down in there, so that needs to come out so that I have that slot later on for that project. And then of course we will be installing it somewhere into the back. First thing I am going to do here is take out the expansion cards because they are kind of in the way and I want to get them dusted off and such. We are over here on this desk today. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use a 3D printed stubby one because we are close to that screen. You know, don't have a lot of room currently, so we are safely enough doing this on the main desk here. And yeah, so we're just gonna get in here and start unscrewing stuff. LTT screwdriver. We are gonna do this for, I don't know, 6, 7, something like that, screws. And then the old CPU we are actually going to use for a different project. If you want to, go ahead and guess what that is going to be down in the comments. But you know, a fairly fast 8-core 16-threaded CPU, very usable and could serve a lot of different purposes. So alright, so we are going to gently pull on our adapters here. Try and get a little more wiggle room. There's one, there's two. My beloved 3080 Ti here. Love this card. Got our 1080 unplugged. Alright. And the wiggling back and forth you were seeing, that's just because the front here is not currently, you know, screwed into the case because I just took those out to get the card out. So I'm going to very carefully, there we go, we'll get this dusted off. Beloved EVGA. At some point I will be getting a EVGA 1080 so that I can have matching branded cards just, you know, because it will look a little better. And also, I like the fan configuration on the EVGA 1080 a bit more than this. It looks like the EVGA 1080 actually takes, here we go, the EVGA 1080, instead of this kind of situation where it's taking air from in front of the card and pulling it in, the fans are actually reversed. So it's taking the air surrounding the card, drawing it in through the fins, and then out this way. And because I have all exhaust fans down here for multiple reasons, that'll help a lot with the airflow for that second GPU. Plus, I want to throw this into Blue Goblin because I originally had a Gigabyte 1050 in there, and this is like pretty much the same shrouding and color scheme and all that, and I just think it would be very neat to have that kind of card back into Blue Goblin. And then finally here, unplug that SATA cable, take out our SSD expansion card here. This is that M-SATA one, or not M-SATA, but M.2 SATA that I was talking about. Plugs in here for the SATA cable, and this is basically just a carrier card. I could have installed another NVMe in here if I wanted to. I didn't because I knew that at some point I was going to need that bottom slot down there for 10 gig. So yeah, on to the next step. Alright, so we are just going to unscrew this. There we go. Take out our SSD here, and we can tell that this is a SATA M.2 because of the fact that there's two keys, two notches in there. That is the dead giveaway of a SATA SSD instead of a PCIe NVMe SSD. So we're just going to try to screw this back in. Or just get it started with our fingers here, hopefully, because typically that's easier for me. There we go. We can take our screwdriver, tighten that up, and then we can use this in something else. Okay, and as we can see here, this just looks like a standard 2.5-inch SSD, but once we open it up, just gonna take this, just gonna slide that in there. Okay, and sure to line up with our screw hole. We want to very carefully, there we go, just want to put it in there and then screw it down. Now with this, we don't quite want to screw it down all the way because it seems like there's not a standoff included for some reason, which is fine. You just gotta ensure that you don't screw it down too much. You know, you still want it to be about an even amount of space. Right about there is good for this. And so now we just want to take the top of this, just put that into there. Now we will take our 4 small screws and we will just screw that together for all 4 of them. And just like that, we now have a normal 2.5-inch SSD, and all of our data will still mount perfectly fine because it is still over a SATA interface. There's no adapters, there's no electrical adapters or anything, just physical standards. Next, gonna tackle the CPU here. Alright, we got the cooler off. I forgot that it was not centered on the cooler. So I was taking it apart wrong. However, we did get there and we are all good now. So let's continue here. Basically how this works is we can see here that the tower of the cooler itself is offset from the base. So this one was actually underneath the fan, and then this one goes to this screw hole here. This one here in the middle changes out the bracket itself for the cooler. So that is what happened there. I didn't realize that this one was under the fan. I thought these two here took off the CPU cooler, but it was these two outside. Good reminder, you know, that sometimes it's good to either like check the check the manual beforehand, or you know, just double check and make sure you are actually doing what you're supposed to before you go you know, doing something to your computer. So that being said, let's clean this stuff up and get to the CPU swap. It's easier to clean when it's in the socket. Can't risk bending any pins or anything like that. Or, well, don't risk bending any pins or anything like that, but doing it while it is in the socket. And we are just cleaning it up while it's in the socket. Just because it's, you know, you have less risk of bending pins that way. You know, just from handling it. There we go. I typically use a paper towel to get the bulk of it off, and then move on to a alcohol wipe. Alrighty, now for our new CPU. Went ahead and zoomed in here, that way I have some room to work with. We're going to carefully, very carefully, there we go, take our new CPU out. Going to very gently set that aside. I'm gonna check the pins. Everything looks fine to me. To very carefully set that aside. Going to pull the lever. There we go. Carefully take out that CPU. Put it into this packaging. Save that for another day. Here's our thermal grease on my finger. Let's fix that real quick. Alrighty, now going to take our Ryzen 9 3950X. I'm going to take that and put it into our socket. Everything dropped in, gave it a little wiggle, make sure it's in there. There we go, Ryzen 9. Going to clean off the fingerprints real quick. Then okay, we'll be good to go for our thermal paste. In this case, I'm using some Arctic MX4. It's not super expensive and it does a real good job. Going for the center, I typically do a slightly bigger application just because I like to ensure that it does have full coverage. And for AMD, they do have slightly bigger IHSs compared to like the typical 1150X style Intel CPUs, and so just want to make sure it all goes out, and typically if it does go over, it doesn't get far enough to get to any of the traces. So this is what I go with for these average size CPUs, and we will go from here. Alright, now I'm going to plug in one of the fans here. Try to anyway. There we go. Okay, I'm going to carefully tuck all that up there. I'm going to check my CPU connections while I'm at it. Everything feels good there. I will manage this cable in a moment here. Okay, there we go. And I already installed that one because it can be out of the way while we try to install this, or it won't be in the way while I try to install that. gonna go with this one first. I'm gonna do that a portion of the way. Come over here, do this a portion of the way. Come back over here. Do that one up the rest of the way. Then do this one the rest of the way. Okay. You want to go until, or at least for this specific cooler, you want to go until it won't anymore, because it has stopping points so that you don't put too much pressure on it. Now we manage this a little bit more, and then we will get to our other fan and click that on, and then we'll do that off camera because it is kind of hard to see what I'm doing with the camera in the way. And once that is done, just manage your fan wires the best you can, and then that is all good to go. Here is our Sabert SSD all wired up. Looks just like the other one, pretty much. And so I will figure out where to put this because there's not another slot back here. So I'll figure out where to secure this to, and then clean up the dust that's back here, fix some of this wire cable management, and then we will get back to the front. Alrighty. The first card that we will reinstall here is our actually, it will be 2080, but let's get this bracket in here first. This is just in here until the 10 gig card arrives. If anyone is curious about what the PCIe configuration is on this, it is 8x or 8 PCIe, or the way it's set up is, this is a full 16x slot electrically. Electrically, this is an 8x slot, and electrically, this one down here is a 4x slot. Because you can only have 16 lanes going to these 3 slots, the way it is set up is 8x to the top slot, 4x to the second slot, and then 4x to the third slot. If you just had 2 GPUs and this slot down here was not in use, you could have 8x on both of these. But because I will be using that bottom slot, it will be set to 8, 4, and 4. Going from 16x to 8x on most GPUs has very little performance drop-off. If anything, it's like 1 to 5 frames at most. So if you're looking to run a multi-GPU setup, dropping down to 8 for most people will not be a problem. Here we go. Now, going from 16 lanes to 4 lanes, that is a little bit of a bottleneck. You are looking at dropping anywhere between 10 to 15 FPS on average. I'm gonna put these in here, but I'm not gonna tighten them all the way, just because I still need the 3080 installed in order to judge properly. But yes, going to 4 lanes, you're dropping 10 to 15 FPS on average, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the game and what is demanding on said game, etc. You know, it honestly just depends from title to title. But for my use case, you know, having this second GPU in here is worth losing a tiny handful of frames on the main card. And for the very few games that is rendering on this card, for reasons that I will not get into, the FPS is perfectly fine. So for my specific use case, I'm not worried about it, and it's perfectly fine for how I use it. For you, it might not be the same way. And that is all right. Everyone is different. Everyone's computer is a little bit different. You do you. There we go. There we go. All right. So we are going to angle this one up as high as possible, just for the most clearance possible. You want to get as much space in between these as you can, you know, while still, of course, being able to have fan clearance and all that. For this one, it's like we have a little bit of wiggle room. We're going to go about there-ish. Yes, go with that. And like I said, that 10 gig card will get installed here eventually. Do I still have a Wi-Fi card in here? Yes. However, I am using Ethernet primarily. Finally got internet on this side of the house via a Wi-Fi bridge. It's not the best solution, but it's the solution I was able to achieve. And it's still faster than Wi-Fi anyway. So yes, I still have the Wi-Fi card in here, because in the event that for some reason the Wi-Fi bridge does go down, I can still connect to the router directly instead of having that middleman, in the event that it fails for some reason. Now we're just gonna double check all of our screws here. Okay, everything seems to be good. So now we're going to close this flap in the back, get our thumb screw going. We just want that to be hand tight. Now we plug in our power. 8-pin for the 1080, super simple. Then our dual 8-pin for the 3080 Ti. Should have turned the camera down, I apologize. Carefully install those. Manage your cables how you want. In my case, we're going to do that. SSD is installed into the back. CPU is upgraded. Let's turn this thing on. Alrighty, let's go ahead and turn this on. Those fans do not have ARGB. We'll see if those come back. We will see about that. We have a red light here. The lights are... The lights were changing. We haven't posted yet. It could just need a minute. And those haven't come back yet, so... there's some stuff to work out here, it looks like, but we will come back. We have a post. Okay, there is some new stuff here. Let's take a look at this, and we will continue. Alright, always check your ARGB headers. You can see that that one is currently not in place, which is why our bottom and top fans were not having any RGB. And so I have to take the top GPU out to get my fingers in to release the bottom GPU so that I can get my hand in there to take the bottom GPU out to get to the ARGB header. So always check your cables. Alrighty, all of our fans are working now, and we are in the BIOS. So let's head on over here. Ryzen 9 5950X 16 core. Processor speed 3400. Okay. Speed of the RAM is wrong. I've never been able to get as XMP or whatever AMD's thing is to work. So I've had to go in and adjust stuff manually. So I'll go ahead and do all that. And let's take a look at the CPU settings, see if there's anything I can do. Alright, so I've adjusted that. Looking at storage, we have our two NVMe drives here. Then we have our two SSDs, or two SATA SSDs, and then our two SATA hard drives. So everything should be there. So let's go ahead and boot into Windows. Okay, and we should theoretically load into our desktop. Heck yeah, here we go. Alright, first thing we're gonna do is go to Task Manager, Performance, CPU. Here we go. Ryzen 9 5950X 16 cores, 32 threads, actively running at 4.6 gigahertz. All 64 gigs of RAM is up. Looks like we have all of our storage. We have both of our GPUs. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm gonna check my storage real quick, and then we will bring up Cinebench. Okay, I will be running Cinebench R15 because it already has a bunch of CPU scores from stuff that I've already saved. Our 3800X is right here. Looks like the max score I got with that is 2174 with an 18 core 36 thread Xeon, just barely beating it out. So let's go ahead and run the CPU multi-core. And it should chew through this like it's nothing. Oh yeah. What are we gonna get? I knew it was gonna get... Holy crap. I knew it was gonna get close to the 40-core 80-thread dual Xeon server. I knew it was gonna get close. But that is really close. Holy crap. That is awesome. That is fantastic. No, I'm not going to rebuild my server machine with one of these. I love this server machine, but holy smokes. That is awesome. Alright, I'm going to run the GPU real quick just so that I can save it and, you know, have everything be here. I will let you know if that score is any better than it used to be. Hi. Hello. The GPU test already happened. I'm not gonna show those scores because it's interesting. I almost forgot to do the single core performance, so we are going to go over that real quick, and then we'll get to the GPU. All right. While this is still going, let's take a look at the single core performance here. We can see that a 4770K is up top, followed second to top. Followed shortly behind an i7 6850K that's in my other machine. And then here we have our 3800X at 208. That's still taking its sweet old time, but it's going relatively fast. So, that's good. You know, just taking a look here. You know, we got some of their CPUs in here. Some of them I do have, some of them are just kind of stock in Cinebench R15. But, yeah. Alright, we will come back. Shoot the FPS again. Whoopsies. We'll come back. We'll come back. It's almost... Oh, okay, just finished. And 271 in the single. Holy stuff words. That is a lot over the 3800X. Wow. Alrighty then. Cool. Alright, onto the GPU that already happened, but I haven't shown yet because I almost forgot about the single-threaded squirt. Alright, so we can see that the reference match is pretty accurate for a lot of things. This is wrapping up here on this end. I'm not expecting it to be... I don't know if it'll be better. It could be worse, because this GPU test likes to... Huh. 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 Oh my god, wait a second. Okay, so I don't know what happened. Because you can see here 3080 Ti on the old CPU was getting like 128 FPS. Yeah. And that, you know, I always knew that this test was acting weird. Like this one I got 145 with the old CPU. That's a lot. So I don't know if this is also like CPU core dependent or whatever. But we like added another 100 points to the score. That is odd. Interesting. So I don't know if it's like core dependent as well, but it shouldn't be. Interesting. Well, listen, if I get like a 65% boost in FPS or whatever, that doesn't really make any sense though, because I was just running on... It doesn't matter. If it's better, then it's better. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you in the next one, and have a good one, guys.